Patreons from around the world. You can show your support and become a Patreon member by signing up at patreon.com/majorspoilers. And hello, everyone. It is Friday, July 3rd, which is interesting because it's not quite July 4th. It's not quite Canada Day. It's just somewhere in between. Speaking of Canada Day, here's our favorite person in the entire world, Ashley Victoria Robinson. Ashley, how are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm so glad to be back on Finally Friday. And fun fact, Mr. Steven Schleicher was the first person to wish me Happy Canada Day this year.
Yeah, because I knew when we finished the Major Spoilers podcast this week, I was like, tomorrow's Canada Day. I better say something before I forget. So usually that happens with birthday twos because I have a day ahead announcement. And I know that it'll pop up and say, hey, it's Ashley's birthday tomorrow. Or hey, it's Tom Merritt's birthday tomorrow. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, I need to say something now because I will forget tomorrow. So, how's Ashley doing? I know we just talked a few days ago.
Not too bad. We're all trying to make our way through these complicated times. So I hope that people keep their fireworks themselves. But I'm doing pretty okay. How about you?
So they just started selling fireworks yesterday. I think that's some county ordinance. We're in a drought right now. But the thing is, everybody had their big tents set up. I mean, you drive down the main street in Hayes, not Main Street, but the main street, and it's like tents everywhere. Giant inflatable gorillas and 75% off sales, free cotton candy with every purchase kind of things. And I'm like, okay, cool. We're not buying any fireworks this year. The boys just don't seem interested in it. Went to karate last night, and these big dark clouds start rolling in. And about 10 o'clock last night, just as we were finishing up the dueling review and getting everything posted, huge lightning storm comes barreling in, huge rainstorm comes barreling in. There was a moment where I thought another room in the basement was going to flood, so I was up until way late and then got up way early in the morning to check everything out. Everything turned out fine, but I have a feeling with these 60 to 70 mile per hour winds that we had, I have a feeling many of those tents did not survive the night last night. So... everyone's saying, oh, it's not quite Canada Day. It's not quite Independence Day. It is Hamilton Day today.
It is.
When did you first watch Hamilton? We haven't watched it yet. I'm going to try to talk everybody into watching it tonight.
I saw the first tour when it came through Los Angeles a couple years ago now. The day before I saw the Muppets at the Hollywood Bowl, so it was a really freaking good weekend. And I had tickets to see the latest tour when it came through. I was supposed to have seen it in April, but now it's postponed until January, which I'm so glad. That is absolutely the correct thing to do. But I'm a huge musical theater fan. I've been like a giant musical theater fan since I was a teenager. So I saw Lin-Manuel Miranda in the original cast of In the Heights with my mom in New York, but I was not famous enough to accrue a ticket to the OG Hamilton. But yeah, so I've been on the Hamilton train for a long time, and actually as somebody who is applying to be an American citizen and had a real struggle with like trying to embrace the identity of being American, the way the characters in Hamilton speak about the founding of America for me was actually like very pivotal in changing my own thinking and sort of like evolving to my next step. So it holds like a very weird and special place in my heart for that reason. Yeah.
I was waiting to see if a off Broadway version would come to our town, because occasionally we get those things, like we'll get Stomp or we'll get Ain't Misbehaving or whatever.
Great, by the way.
Yeah.
Stomp is
I've seen Stomp
great.
like 4 different times. That's how much I enjoy Stomp. But yeah, so Hamilton Day. Somebody actually stopped the show today because they heard I was going to make a shocking announcement on the show, and I am. But first, let's do an unboxing, Ashley.
Yes, let's.
This one to Steven at Major Spoilers from Skeleton Crew Studio. Oh, who do we know? What does Skeleton Crew Studio make?
They make really cool lock and key keys, some of which Steven very generously takes pity on Ashley and sends them to her.
Yeah, because occasionally I'll forget, now, did I order this one or not order this one? Because, it says here on the back, there are 100 keys in Key House. I lose track of how many I have because I have not built a display case for them. But I think I may have this one. This one looks familiar, but I bought it anyway. It is the chain key. Look at that.
Nice.
This came in today.
Nice.
So that looks pretty cool. I'm looking forward to putting that on the pile with the rest of the stuff. So that is cool as well. Let's see. Oh yeah, more keys, says Lagnus. Lagnus is there. Lagnus has been watching all week. And for those of you who are just checking in today, Monday through Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Central Time, I stream some games, different games. Usually it's Sentinels of the Multiverse, Legendary DXP, some other board games, whatever that they may be in electronic form on Steam. And I stream those for an hour just to have fun and chat and hang out. So Lagnus hangs out, Geeky Choreographer hangs out, Monkey Bananas is usually there. So, so a lot of people come and hang out and watch that. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you get a notification or follow the channel so you get a notification when we go live. All right. Are you ready for some shocking news, Ashley?
Yes.
I know everyone's like, what's this major announcement? It's not a major announcement. It's a shocking announcement. So many people know for years that we have not had a comic book shop in Hayes. We used to have one years ago when Matthew and I went to college. In fact, we had 2 stores that sold comics. One was a used bookstore, Gulliver's. Another one was this old guy just had a used bookstore and magazine store. But he also had a whole bunch of comics that the other store didn't have. But then Gulliver's moved to the mall. I moved away, went to California, came back. They were still in the mall. But about a year after I got there, they shut down because the rent was getting too high. The rent was too damn high.
Oh,
and
girl,
so they shut
I feel
down.
that in my bones.
I know, right? Oh yeah, Dr. Bradley Will says he misses Gulliver's. Brad, I didn't know you were around when Gulliver's was around. So yeah, you're an old person in Hayes. Congratulations, Dr. Brad Will in the chat today. So I found a comic shop in Salina, Kansas, and they had a store at the time. And the guy was kind enough to set up a mailing subscription service with me where I would send him my list of comics each month, and some of them I had on an automatic pull list, and everything else he would just order and send back to me. And so we were doing that for years. I think I only met him in person like twice to get this going, but he's always a nice guy. He passed away a couple of years ago. His wife decided to take over and continue to deliver comics for everyone. And I had a standing order with her, again, she'd just send me the bill. I'd just write her a check, or I'd send her a PayPal or whatever. But I noticed that over the last, probably 2 years, I was less and less interested in sending her a list of comics that I wanted to get physical copies of. Mm-hmm. And that has to do with a twofold fact. Number one, the Nerd Room of Doom is packed with comics. And certainly after we had our major flood last year, almost around this time last year, go back and see what I was talking about at the beginning of the show about staying up all night, well, not all night, but worrying most of the night that the basement was going to flood again. And when we got that room put back together, I just realized I have way too many comics in that room. And at the same time, I've been happily reading comics digitally. Even comics that I know I own a physical copy of that are bagged and bordered and stuck away, I have them on digital because it's easier to just pull that up. So last week, 2 weeks ago, I wrote to the person and I said, you know what, you guys have been great. I've been with them for almost 20 years since I moved back to Hayes. And I hate to do this, but I'm canceling all of my physical comic books, and I'm going to be a digital-only comic book reader from now on. So as of next month, or actually 2 weeks from now, when the last of my last order with her comes in, that'll be it. No more physical comics in single floppy form for me, unless there's something that I'm really interested in, at which case I'll probably be in another town if I'm ever able to travel ever again. I'll be in another town where I can go to a comic shop and pick it up, probably in the back issue bin. Or I'm going to get trade paperback collections or the nice hardbound omnibus collections. I really like those. The Hellboy collection, the library editions are fantastic if you haven't gotten them. But I'm now, as of today, well, or 2 weeks from now, but I am a digital-only comic book person. And, she wrote back and she's like, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from. She said with the DC announcement, she didn't know how she was going to be able to order because they're a very small virtual comic book store, essentially. Yeah. And so she said it's probably a good time that you did back out because this is going to be a bigger headache for me. And really the only comics that I had on my pull list from her was Flash, and Nightwing. Those were the only 2 series that I was continuing to have pulled. And so she's like, this is fine. There's no hard feelings. I'll send you a final bill, and that's it. So there you go, Ashley.
What a lovely response, though. I do want to say, like, what a wonderful professional way to handle that situation. I mean, kudos to her.
Yes, and just to kind of put a perspective on things, there was a time way back, I don't know, 14 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know what could have happened 14 or 15 years ago today. But 14 or 15 years ago, it was not uncommon for me to drop $400 to $500 a month on comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point when the husband was still alive, he actually wrote to me one time as like, we really appreciate your support. You're one of our best customers. I jokingly say you've put one of our kids through college, but also you've put one of our kids through college. So, they're really a cool couple, and they dealt with it very well. When he died, he passed away from cancer, but everyone thought that was going to be it. But she was like, no, I'm going to make the commitment to everyone who's been a loyal fan, loyal, customer of ours, that we're going to continue to do this for as long as I can. So,
good.
So there you go, Ashley. I'm digital only. So the big question is, does this now make me a fake comic book fan? Because I'm not really reading comics. I don't have those physical comics in my hand, so now I'm a fake comic book fan.
First of all, if anyone says that to you, they're not your friend, and tell them to go suck an egg.
Yeah.
If you like comics, you're a real comic book fan. I truly only get floppies of my friends' comics.
Yeah.
Because,
well, like here on the back rack, you can see. Oh, it's not spun around to it, but Science is back there, and Jupiter Jet is back there. You know what? I'll get those. That's not a problem.
Yes, but fortunately, post Jupiter Jet Volume 1, we are now officially at Jawin Comics headquarters. We are in a post Floppies world as well. Jupiter Jet Volume 2, which will be in next month's previews,
nice.
is just a straight graphic novel, as was Science, which is something that I'm very proud of. I have been a digital first consumer. For a long time, because I live in an apartment. And our rule is we have a select number of shelves that are for collections, and we each have a long box that are for floppies, and that's it. So it makes us have to be smarter consumers.
Yeah.
And look, there's exceptions to everything, but Edward Greenberg, who owns the Collector's Paradise franchise of comic shops in Los Angeles,
which was interesting because that was the name of my comic shop in Salina. But not part of the franchise.
There's a lot of overlap in comic shop names, if we're going to be completely honest. But he has a rule, which I think is really interesting, where he only buys hardbound collections. And that really cuts down on your reading. Now, with some indie books, unless you're very fortunate, you're only going to get a soft cover. But I've adopted more of those rules the older I've gotten. And the more I'm trying to curate my collection, because I keep saying this, and I said it as a joke, but it's for real. I don't want to die burying long boxes. Unless you want to build a tomb around me of long boxes, that is acceptable once I've already passed.
There were a couple of times in the old house that my wife and I had where that stack of boxes were getting kind of high and rickety, and I thought there may have been a time where, oh my gosh, these things are going to collapse on me. Yeah. And no one's going to know about it until my wife gets home late in the afternoon, at which point it will be too late.
There was an episode of CSI where they did that, and it hit me right in my teenage soul when I watched it.
Well, for those of you that remember, it was in August when we had that big storm blow through, and we didn't realize, because the Nerd Room of Doom was just, you really could not walk into it. Because I was just like, just throw this here, throw this there, whatever. Everything was on the floor, everything was piled up. I mean, it was literally a junk room at the point. But then when I went in that one day and I was like, it smells musty in here, and then realized, oh my gosh, the floor is soaking wet, and it's been that way for a month and a half, something like that.
Dang.
Yeah, and had the big freak out, and we pulled everything out of that room, threw away a bunch of stuff, ended up putting a bunch of stuff into storage. We ended up getting a storage facility to put a bunch of stuff in, like statues and stuff that can stand some fluctuations in heat. But that room looks fantastic now. I've shown some pictures before. But for those of you who want to dive back into the Major Spoilers Instagram account to about a year ago, or maybe not even a year ago, maybe October of this year, when I finally We finally had a good test to make sure that the room was sealed from the outside water, and where I built a little platform to keep all the boxes off the floor and put them all up. And at that point, I was like, I've got too many comics. I need to start cutting back. And that's the point when I started going, you know what? Digital works just fine. I've got a digital subscription already to a lot of comics. Why am I continuing to hold on to the physical comics when I'm reading them in digital? I'm hardly even opening them in physical form. You know, these comics today are not going to be worth anything 20 years from now. So why not just enjoy them? Why not just read the digital editions and enjoy them for what they are? I don't have to spend a lot of money to go back and say, oh, was this run of Spider-Man really that good? Well, I can go buy it at 99 cents on a Comixology and, you know, find out for myself. And if it really is that good, then I can go and do a, you know, a hardbound collection of that. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. So
yeah, me too, man. Welcome to the club.
Yeah. So it kind of feels good to get that off my chest. I really was expecting a lot of people to just kind of go, oh yeah. I know that like J. Michael T, I think he only reads comics digitally. I don't know how many of our other people in the chat are digital comic only people.
I think a lot of people are fairly split, right? And I think it's leaning a little more, we're going digital for singles and we're buying collected editions. And also economically, creatively, editorially, we talk about it all the time on the Major Spoilers podcast. It's the most efficient way, it's the most economic way to be consuming and producing this type of material.
Yeah, I think so at this point. The only thing, and so in hindsight, people may be saying, oh, Stephen, you've been kind of bagging on LCSs lately. Is this part of your decision to go digital only? No, not really. I've kind of been bagging on the local comic shops since the very first iPad when Marvel launched their digital comic reader app because of the comic shops putting their foot down and saying, well, if you don't charge the same price for these electronic atoms, which costs nothing, so that we can keep our brick and mortar store open. That's when I kind of started to sour on bookstores. But that's been, that's almost been 13 years ago. So
did you see the THR article that came out late last night about comic shops and Diamond?
No. What happened? I saw Steve Geppi announced this week that he is resuming the role as president of Geppi Family Entertainment, which is Diamond Comics.
I'll try to find it and drop a link for you, and then if you want to share it out, you're more than welcome to. But it's been so interesting to sort of watch the saga, right, with DC breaking from Diamond, and all the comic shops. It seemed like a lot of them were behind Diamond, and now a lot of comic shops are revealing how Diamond has been upping their prices. And the quality difference between the non-Diamond distributors and the Diamond experience.
Yes, I did see this story. Let me copy the link here. This is comic stores and Diamond distributors clash as industry reopens. I'll paste this here into the chat for anybody who wants to follow along. We will flip over to the website right here. This is from the Hollywood. This is from the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah, and it's like deep industry stuff, but I think it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to read it yesterday, and I was just like, okay, what's going on? I've said this before, that I think that when Diamond said, hey, it's going to be a couple of months before we pay the publishers, that was a bad sign. Here's the main headline. The distribution company denies complaints it is intentionally charging more during a time retailers are getting back on their feet. Quote, our base shipping rates have not changed, but the landscape in which we're operating has. So you guys can go in and read that. I was paying roughly 6% of wholesale on shipping from Diamond pre-pandemic. This is raised up to approximately 10%, and we've had single weeks raise as high as 25%, says Brian Hibbs, owner of Comics Experience and Comics Experience Outpost in San Francisco, explained in an email. That doesn't surprise me, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't Brian Hibbs the one that complains a lot about DC, I wonder? I can't remember if he's the one or not. But, so there you go. There is some things to go read that article. This does not surprise me. This also, I know a lot of people are questioning why DC didn't decide to continue to distribute through Diamond as well as their other two distributors. And the biggest reason for that is that had they continued to do both, then stores would not be ordering from the other two new distributors that DC is going with now. They would have just stuck with Diamond, and so them splitting apart would not have worked in the long run. Will DC come back to Diamond? I don't know, but I'll say it again. I think DC saw the writing on the wall 4 months ago, and they're going to be the ones in charge when Diamond ultimately says, "Hey, sorry, we can't do this anymore." Thoughts there, Ashley? Oh, well, we lost your audio. Hold on just a second. Let's see where Ashley's audio has gone. Oh, let's go over to the one that says guest so we can get Ashley in there. There we go. Now we should be able to hear you. There you go. All right. Sorry, we didn't hear you there for a minute.
I was going to say it will be very interesting if we do wind up coming around, if everyone sort of comes around to DC's side, right? And it's not about size, and it's not about columns, and it's not about a point system. It is about what is right for you, the distributor, for you, the printer, for you, the publisher, for you, the consumer, ultimately. But it will be interesting because DC has suffered a lot of bad PR around this. And I just think people kind of like to dump on Warner Brothers. Which is a little baffling to me. Like, HBO Max launched as well during this time, and HBO Max got all this crap. And HBO Max, I think, has a lot of really wonderful content on it. So I'm a little baffled by it. We all there watching Watchmen right now, so let's not pretend like we're not subscribed. But it will be interesting if everyone sort of comes around to DC's way of thinking. But ultimately, whether this causes other distributors to come up in the industry or whether it causes Diamond to do a complete 180 and overhaul their practices, the outcome is going to be better for all of us in the end. And growing pains suck. And it sucks right now. And it sucks on top of everything else in the world. But as somebody who had to unpack those Diamond boxes on Tuesdays, regularly got stuff that wasn't ours, regularly got boxes that had obviously been kicked in, regularly got boxes with no packing material in them, anything but that is a better option. So this is really worth a good read to go through and see what this article is about. But this is that, hey, there's an iceberg ahead. It's just a little one. We don't have to worry about it that much. Bit. So, I would keep an eye on this. And remember, we were talking about this first and kind of, I wouldn't say we were talking about it first, but we were certainly the ones saying, hey, be on the lookout for Diamond to be doing some interesting things due to the pandemic. And especially when they made the announcement about publishers were not going to be able to pay you for multiple months. That was probably a good indicator that something bad was about to happen. And then this announcement that was just made, I think Friday last week, I want to say Friday last week or Monday, that Steve Geppi was coming back as the president and their current president was stepping aside, was retiring or getting out of the business or whatever. That also kind of raised some alarms for me. So just something to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. But for now, I'm waiting for Amazon to emerge as a distributor. I really think they could. I think they're a good contender.
Yeah, and I wonder why DC didn't approach Amazon initially to do that.
Well, there's been a hot rumor for a while in the biz in LA that Amazon has been trying to buy DC from Warner Brothers.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And that potentially, or that if Warner Brothers gives up DC, because DC is but a tiny portion of what Warner Brothers has its eyes on, right?
Right.
It's so much bigger than DC.
And certainly with what AT&T has their eyes on.
Exactly. And that we could see some of these pantheons of the industry, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, becoming Comixology exclusives.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there was ever any truth to that, if it was anything other than one assistant calling another assistant and a meeting set up. I wonder if that's still in play or was ever in play, if that's part of the reason why these steps haven't been taken yet. Also, Comixology, I think, is a smaller operation than people might initially think. And
True.
if Amazon is going to become a distributor, Comixology is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah. And certainly it used to be I could call the person in charge at Comixology and just say, hey, man, what's going on? And he would call me back and we would have conversations. But now, I think it was like 2 months ago, I had sent him so I should say that we are now an affiliate with Comixology.
Heck yeah,
so you will notice on a lot of our reviews that you'll say you can buy this issue via Comixology. That's an affiliate link and we'll get a little bit of money. It's just like regular Amazon and the Amazon affiliate links that we have at Major Spoilers. Whatever you buy through that link, a little bit comes back to us.
Jeff
Nothing.
Bezos and give it to us.
Exactly, but doesn't cost you anything extra, but a little bit comes back to us. And when they originally reached out to me, I was like, well, I don't know this name. This seems like a weird email. And I reached out to the person in charge at Comixology and said, hey, is this legit? And he, instead of responding right back to me, is like, hey, I'm going to pass you off to these other two people. So Comixology has definitely grown in size, and certainly being part of Amazon, it probably makes things a little bit more complicated. But I really foresee a time, and I know a lot of people are down on Amazon and down how they're killing mom and pops and all these kinds of things. But Amazon has a pretty good shipping practice in place. So it would be very easy for them to distribute comics to the comic book stores and probably do it for a lesser price than what this article is saying about. I think Jeppy is saying that the reason why some of these stores are seeing an increase is because they're going through different shipping retailers now that DC is doing their own thing, and that's where they're seeing the cut. But there's some of those hints going on in here in this article that you guys should read. One other news item that broke yesterday that I wanted to talk about in our closing minutes.
Yes.
Marvel has announced that they are now going to publish Alien, Predator, and Alien vs. Predator comic books, which, two things. Number one, three things. Number one, this won't happen until 2021. Okay, I think this was supposed to be a San Diego Comic-Con announcement,
Probably.
but because there's no
Certainly.
San Diego Comic-Con, that's why they're announcing it now. Number two, they've made a clarification to say that these are not aliens and predators in the Marvel universe like Conan has become, although that'll probably change by 2022.
Judging by the image that they shared, it's gonna be.
Yeah. Number three, this announcement really should not have come as a surprise, considering that the Marvel Disney Fox deal has now been done for over a year. And if you remember what happened with Lucasfilm when that deal closed, it was a year later that Marvel said, we now have the Star Wars comic franchise, which, this is the saddest part, damn, that sucks for Dark Horse. This is now the third property that they have lost to Disney. They've lost Conan, they've lost Star Wars, now they've lost the Alien and Predator franchises. Probably RoboCop. No, RoboCop was over at Boom anyway. But they did have a RoboCop property at one place else.
I guess they'll take Hellboy next. I don't know.
That would be very interesting because I know, so again, this is me not knowing all of the information, so please forgive me if I'm not 100% accurate here. I don't want to get sued on this. But I'm pretty sure that Mike Mignola was very upset that a certain person at Dark Horse was still there following the whole Me Too accusations from a month ago.
Who has since been removed, I believe.
So my understanding was that may have been one of the reasons why he might want to pull out of Dark Horse. But if that person has been removed, then maybe he'll stay with Dark Horse.
Was removed. I think they removed it last week, finally.
Okay.
Following a long, protracted internet battle.
Yes. So there was a moment where I was like, oh man, if Mignola is going off on this, then Hellboy may be not long for Dark Horse. But the other thing that Dark Horse lost within the last year and a half was, or maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years now, Yosagi Yojimbo. They also lost that to IDW Publishing. So
and Black Hammer finished. It's over, or it's about to be over. So they didn't lose that in the sense that it was bought out by a bigger company, but it's no longer being published, and that was one of their prestige titles.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with Dark Horse. But I would expect they are going to. Well, I think so. I mean, they've been doing some very interesting projects. Some of them have done very well. Some of them have been very weird. But they are definitely doing some different things that make them feel more independent and less corporate than before, when they had Conan and Star Wars and Aliens and Predators. So they're really dealing with more independent franchises. On the plus side, that's good because that means more creators get content out there. But now they don't feel like the number 3 comic book publisher. They now feel like the number 6 or 7th comic book publisher.
Yeah,
because of
I
that.
would agree with that. Also, Dark Horse, call me anytime. Happy to pitch.
Yeah, there you go. Look for some other cool comics from what's the name of yours and Jason's comic company? Do you have a title for it, or is it just?
Oh no, it's true. I always jokingly call us like Jawan Comics.
Yeah,
or the
that's what I
Jawa
thought.
Comics HQ, because that's the brand that most people know us by.
All right. Well, from the Major Spoilers HQ, I think we are going to wrap things up this week. I hope everybody has a great Independence Day. If you are someone that wants to fire off fireworks, do it safely. If you're someone who hates fireworks, if you're someone who hates fireworks, I'm sorry. If you're someone who has an animal that hates fireworks, I'm really, really sorry. Ashley, question for you. How do they celebrate Canada Day? Do you guys celebrate with fireworks and stuff in Canada or not?
Yeah, Canada Day is basically the same type of celebration, except it's red and white rather than your red, white, and blue traditionally.
Yeah.
A little more subdued this year,
Yeah,
due to the COVIDs. But I do also encourage people when they're celebrating to maybe consider donating to another really worthy cause, because this is going to be a weird holiday for all of us this year.
Yes, it is. Ashley, where can people find more of you on the internets?
Oh, you can find me all over the internet at Ashley V. Robinson. The V is very important. And you can find me in next month's previews. Please pre-order Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio. And if you are a Kickstarter backer, watch them updates coming soon.
Nice. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this week. For a reminder, for those of you that are Critical Hit fans, if you have not already seen it, no new Critical Hit this weekend because of the holiday. But we'll be back next week with all sorts of fun stuff. Don't forget to follow this channel so you know when we go live Monday through Thursday, as well as Friday. And on Saturday, I'll be back tomorrow to do a long game stream with everyone. So until then, do good, be good, wear a mask, wash your hands, don't be a dick, and I hope that you get the holiday that you deserve. Take care.